Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Deja Vu here with Varosh once more, and we are going to bring you set 3 of Leta versus Flash here in the MSL. Leta is down 2 games to none right now. Flash has really beaten him pretty well both games. I think there was an opportunity early on in the second game for Leta to win, but wasn't able to take advantage, so now he's dug himself a hole that he's got to work himself out of. We are working on Dante's Peak now for set 3. Leta going to be starting out in the bottom right in blue, and Flash is opposing Terran in the top right in red.
I think Leta's got a good shot in this game because he came so close last game with that initial tank pressure. He didn't have siege mode, but even without it, he had about 5 tanks to 1, and had he just pushed in, he probably would have had that game. So he knows that he can do it, he knows he's been close, and he just needs to play a little bit more tightly and be a little bit more decisive if he ever has a chance. You can't go into a game versus Flash with the assumption that Flash is invincible, because as we've seen versus Flash, most of the games he loses, he does end up losing within the first 10 minutes. So if you have an opening, you've got to take advantage of it, and I think Leta's got that idea in his mind now, and he's going to execute that a lot better in this game.
So I guess by that rationale, we should expect some sort of a pressure maybe off of one base. Do you think he's even going to take an expansion, or do you think this is going to be more of a one-base pressure build from him?
Well, I think it's perfectly likely that he could take an expansion, just like he did last game. And then if he ever has that situation where it's 5 tanks versus 1 tank, just keep on pushing. You don't have to win by the 5-minute mark. You're better off winning by the 15-minute mark against Flash. Although he's doing this proxy racks in the middle that Flash has done the first 2 games. I think another thing that Leta might go through, he played 2 straight-up macro games versus Flash in game 1 and 2. Not so much in game 2 because he did do that proxy wraith, and his proxy wraiths were actually really, really effective. So if he goes proxy 2 port wraiths instead of just 1 proxy start port, that might give him a pretty good shot at winning too, especially with Leta's pro wraith micro that he just played last game.
Yeah, it looks like we got a forward racks, not really, just from Leta. I don't think he did go supply depot first, so it's not an 8 racks like we saw in the Mind series, where every game seemed to have an 8 racks over and over again somewhere on the map. That's just a supply depot first, so it's not going to be that super early pressure that we sometimes see. Neither player going for that 14cc either, although I do think Flash is doing 1 racks right into command center, and there it is, so he's taking his early command center, and Leta going to scout this out right off the bat. He's got that SCV already heading in there, and Flash actually delaying production on his initial Marine right now, so as soon as he sees that, Leta I think will move right in, and Flash actually responding as soon as he saw that SCV starts his production of his Marine as well. So Lee's going to try and delay this command center as much as he can using his SCV, probably once that Marine comes into play as well. If he can get there ahead of the Marine of Flash, which I don't know if he's going to be able to do, he might be able to try and delay this even more. It does look like Flash is able to get that Marine out, so Leta's going to have an interesting little micro fight here, and he is going to go for it, going to try and micro out some kills here, maybe try and delay this as much as he can, if he can, and maybe even follow it up with a factory or something, some vultures or something like that that's coming up behind it right now. Leta trying to micro as is Flash here, and bringing in a second SCV is Leta, so this is and a second Marine, so this is getting very, very intense here with the micro, and Leta almost losing a Marine there. Needs to be very, very careful with that Marine, needs to get it behind his other Marine, and it looks like Leta looking to back off right now. I suspect he's just waiting for a vulture to come and support, and we're looking at the factory right now, and there is going to be a vulture popping out very, very shortly, so I think he is going to be going with a big time pressure here in the early stages of the game, and Flash, realizing this, is going for a bunker to try and defend.
Yeah, and this is really good by Leta. He had both of his Marines, but very nice micro by Flash. Leta had both of his injured Marines behind his 40 HP Marine, but Flash targeted the other 2 down first, so that was a really good by him. And he threw up that bunker, so now he's going to be perfectly safe, unless this Vulture can get by and do some damage, which it still might be able to.
Yeah, he'd probably need speed upgrade to really get by a fully loaded bunker, I think, to do too much, especially with the skill that Terran players these days are able to pull off SCVs and block their ramp, and a guy like Flash with that barracks already blocking half of it, I think it would be really tough to get by with a slow Vulture, and I think Leta realized that, so we see him putting down his natural command center as well, and Flash lifting off that barracks is going to make more of a half wall going on here inside of his natural expansion. finally able to kill off that scouting SCV. I'm sure Flash has a pretty decent idea of what's going on, probably realizes that the command center is going down, but he does have to be a little bit aware of the possible threat of Wraiths. We saw that last game, and Leta could do that again. Flash, without the perfect scout, doesn't know where the situation is in terms of the Wraith for the possible race for Leta, and we do see him going down, throwing down an arm race, so I think Flash is suspecting what we are expecting, and that is Wraith play from Leta. Hello? Varosh? Oh no! Okay, well I apologize. It looks like Varosh actually had to run, so he's gonna have to drop out. Sorry for that little bit of gap there. I had to go check my ventriloquist. So unfortunately, Varosh is going to be gone for the rest of this. He had to drop out for some issues at IRL. So I'm just going to try and finish this off without him the rest of this game. We do have Flash coming here with a Vulture looking to get some harassment done. Does get a kill on an SCV and scouts out that natural command center and should have a decent idea of the units that are coming his way. He saw the couple tanks, he saw the Vulture, so he knows what's coming his way. And we have 2 machine shops coming up now for Flash as well as a 3rd factory, so he's going to get those, catch up on the upgrades as well as he can very quickly. Probably get Siege as well as Mine, or he could go for both Vulture upgrades first. We'll have to see. Probably he'll want to get Siege because with 2 tanks coming his way, Siege is definitely going to be something that he's going to want. We do have mines out right now for Leta, so he's placing those right outside of the natural expansion of Flash and looking to gain some map control right now with those mines and with his tanks outside the base. There's a 4th factory coming up for Flash, so this is going for a pretty solid 2-base play here from Flash, and Leta doing something a little interesting here, throwing up a bunker, but it looks like the SCV producing that is going to go down. He's looking to protect those 2 Marines a little bit more securely to especially for the anti-air play that they would be able to aid. He's also landed his barracks, so it looks like he's continuing to produce Marines here, so he's really pushing on the early pressure, and we've seen that before where Flash goes very macro heavy, and if you are able to put pressure on him early, he will on occasion actually wilt under the pressure and drop out. He did. That is how we dropped out of the last MSL, and here comes Flash with a bunch of Vultures coming out of those four factories trying to get through here and looking to place down some mines to try and catch this tank, and just now placing them. Is it going to be enough to catch that tank? I think it is going to go down. The tank does go down, and 1 mine still remaining, but only a few Vultures left, and I suspect that Leta, with his reinforcements at his home, should be able to deal with any sort of remaining pressure. And Flash throwing down a 5th factory. He's actually pulled off all of his SCVs at his main, so he doesn't even or at his natural, so he doesn't even have a 2nd base mining. He's just working basically off of 1 base, and this is getting very close to that all-in stage for Flash here, getting very close to that point, and he's coming out here with some Vultures. He doesn't even have a tank, coming out with more Vultures and a Marine, and they are going to get a little bit of run by, so a few more Vultures getting through. Looks like there's some countering Vultures from Leta, catching some of these Vultures on the high ground, and is going to pick off at least a couple of them, going to keep this count low, and as long as this count of Vultures out in the open is low, and right now it is at 0, Leta's going to win this game with 2 fully mining bases, Flash with only 1, Flash without any real upgrade advantages, without any real tactical advantages, and I think this game is going to come to a close pretty soon here. Flash being forced to pull off SCVs, trying to drill this main ramp of his, trying to hold out hope while he tries to reproduce units behind it, but he just has no military units left. He's gone for all of these Vulture run-bys, gone for all of the Vulture upgrades, and it just hasn't worked. Now Vultures are in the main of Flash, picking at SCVs, building supply depots, and a couple down at the bottom of the ramp. Finally, we have a tank produced for Flash, and he's going to try and retake his natural expansion, but he's put so much money into these factories, so much money into these attacks that have done basically nothing. Both players have basically put a ton of money into this fight, but Leta with 2 mining bases in a far better position, and a mine goes off on Flash. That is a critical mine right now. That is 2 very damaged tanks, so Flash in huge trouble right now with those 2 damaged tanks. They will go down to 1 shot each from a tank right now, so he needs to be very careful with those. They are extremely vulnerable to any sort of Vulture play, any sort of tank shot that actually gets in there, and it looks like Leta's countering with 5 factories of his own, only he's going to be able to produce out of them at a very solid rate, whereas Flash is going to have very much a non-ideal production rate, and it looks like Flash once again is going to try and break out here, trying to pick off one of the tanks of Leta, and is going to have trouble doing so. This time Flash able to pick off those mines and stop those vultures from doing too much damage. Again, a vulture coming in here looking to pick off that siege tank, and that siege tank just barely surviving, getting repaired. Flash holding on by the barest of threads tonight. Now this contain for Leta is starting to get low on units, just that one tank, and whatever is inside those bunkers, a couple of vultures as well. Leta needs to be careful here on the ridge, and he does. He is knowledgeable of the fact that there are mines on that ridge and has taken them down, clearing the path for him to reinforce with more tanks. And Leta, also realizing this, has pulled back his initial tank behind that bunker in order to give him more time as he gets his other tanks into play. And Flash has managed to retake his natural expansion, so is starting to get mining going again. He's going to start trying to macro off of those 5 factories. Both players macroing off of 5 factories right now. Leta, obviously, with longer mining, being able to still be ahead right now overall in terms of economy. And Flash eating another mine. This is, once again, amazing that Flash is eating mines. He just does not normally do this. It just is not something that happens to Flash. Eating mines from opposing Terran players. It just never happens. Yet in this game and in the previous game, we saw a few mines land as well, and they are definitely going to hurt him. Look at all of those damaged tanks that SCVs are now off the line, losing mining time to repair, losing minerals and gas to repair. Definitely very, very painful for him. Leta now looking to take a third command center. He'll take that at the inside. Well, bottom right, you can see that base that's just outside of his cliff. That is the base that he will be taking with that. Both barracks giving each other sight range, but this contain right now for Leta very, very strong. Leta, Flash looking to try and bypass it with vultures once again. Leta countering with his own vultures, so we're going to have a little bit of a vulture fight here, and it looks like Leta has more. Leta does have more, and he also has reinforcing units, vultures coming into play as well. And Flash forced it, GG, realizes he is just so far behind economically, wasn't able to do too much on the military, and he just nods his head. He understands what went on, and he doesn't look actually all that rattled at all. Sometimes you see the little twitch of Flash where you could tell that he's starting to get a little bit annoyed. He's not really on top of things, but no twitch there. I think Flash just realizes what went on, realizes he got those 2 vulture upgrades going for those early just did not work, and Leta going to take game 3, so this series is a little bit closer. Leta now down 1-2. If he can win the next set, set 4 on Monte Cristo, we could see another game 5, but in the meantime we're going to go on to game 4. It's going to be on Monte Cristo, and I'm not sure what Brosh's situation is. I'm going to try and wait for him before I cast, but we will see how that goes. Anyways, GG's guys, game 4 on Monte Cristo coming next.